Hi, my name's Dave Adams. You're watching The Cool Mechanic. Today we're looking at number 17 on Mike's list of 100 games you must absolutely positively know how to play. We're looking at Werewolf. Hi, my name's Dave Adams and I love playing games. At the 2015 PAX convention, one of my favourite game designers, Mike Selinker, presented his list of top 100 games you must absolutely, positively know how to play. The 100th game on the list was a challenge to play a game of my own design. With the desire to understand more about the hobby that I love so much, I've taken on that challenge to design a game. But first, I need to learn as much as I can about game design. I'm going to start by playing as many of the games on Mike's list as possible. Join me as I learn more about the Core Mechanic. Now this game, Ultimate Werewolf, was designed by Ted Alspach, who's also known for doing a lot of the Age of Steam expansions, who was known for designing Rapscallion for Suburbia and for the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. He designed the game in 2008 and it was released by Bezier Games, except his game was redesigning an older game called Werewolf, which was released in 1997 by Andrew Plotkin, who had in turn rethemed a game called Mafia, which was created in 1986 by Dmitry Davidoff for a psychology class. To play the game, all you need is a single roll card. These rolls are kept secret and only you know who you are, and it essentially tells you whether you are on the Werewolves team or whether you are on the Villagers team. Now the benefit of Ultimate Werewolf is that it has a whole list of new roles, new abilities, and even creates the potential for more teams to exist. And we'll have a brief look at some of those cards later. I don't want to get caught down in those dynamics of the game, simply because I just want to get to the basics of the core of what this game's about. Now you have two teams, the Villagers and the Werewolves. And the Werewolves are trying to devour the Villagers before the Villagers kill all the werewolves. And this happens over two phases, a night phase and a day phase. During the night, each night begins by everyone closing their eyes, going to sleep, as the mechanic goes, and the werewolves wake up and they choose someone to devour. Now, during the night there will be other characters who wake up and go back to sleep and they'll use their powers, but again, I don't want to get caught into that, as will happen during the day. But during the day phase, everyone wakes up, they discover who within the group has died, they discuss that death, they discuss who they think might be a werewolf, and then they vote on someone to lynch. The person with the most votes gets lynched. Over the course of the game, players are going to be eliminated slowly as they're either devoured by werewolves or whether they're lynched by citizens. And of course, because of the asymmetry of the team sizes, more often than not, villagers are going to be lynching other villagers. After a person dies, their role is revealed, everyone gets to see what they are, and sometimes even some effects kick in then. Let's have a look at some of these cards and how they're designed. Now, standard in any game is going to be your werewolf. They have a title, a negative value, and an ability, which will be different on every card. In the Ultimate Werewolf version, there is also vampires and some other villain characters with also negative values. Also standard will be the Villager. They'll have a positive value, but usually much reduced. Ultimate Werewolf also contains a list of other characters, but usually with positive values, sometimes with zeros, but always very low numbers still. Now what I like about the Ted Alspach design for the Ultimate Werewolf set is these different values of the cards, some being +7, some being -7, some being worth 0, +1, and just that their abilities are linked to their values and their role within the community is linked to their values. What it means is that for any size group, all I have to do is to create a 0 value game, or at least as close to 0 as possible. Often I found when I was creating games for all sorts of groups that occasionally 1 or 2 value out didn't matter too much. What it did mean is that each game was always well balanced and just exciting to play. Now, as I alluded to earlier, this game was designed by Dmitry Davidoff for the Moscow State University. He initially created the game because he wanted to show the difference in conflict between an informed minority against an ill-informed majority and the impact that that can have. Now, when you put this into the context of communist Russia, you can start to see how political this game really was. It started to spread through the campus like wildfire. It eventually moved its way into schools. It even became a game show in one country. And when it got to the States, it continued to grow in popularity, but it was rethemed by Potkin, who argued that Mafia wasn't really within the context of America. So he went with werewolves, of course, liking the whole shape-shifting identity that they looked the same during the day as everybody else. However, the game continued to grow in popularity. It was used in America just for the same reasons as it was used in Russia, to the point where there was some complaints made by Year 5 mothers who complained about psychological impact on their children after the game was played, sparking some investigations and a look into the impact of playing Werewolf. However, this game has gone on to inspire a whole genre of social deduction gaming. Today we've got games like Good Cop, Bad Cop, The Resistance, Masquerade, Coup, Spyfall, and more games are continually coming out with this social deduction theme. Now, we've been using the term social deduction, and as more and more games come out, more designers are exploring what that means. They're adapting it, they're changing it, and we'll try and take some time to explore that concept a little bit later. Today I just want to focus on Werewolf. Now, Werewolf has imperfect information, but also an asymmetry in the teams, trying to really create that experience of the informed minority versus the ill-informed majority. As a villager, you have this whole experience of knowing that you're under threat, knowing that at any time you could be eliminated from the game, having to convince people that who you are, that you are a villager, the whole time trying not to do anything so as to alert suspicion. It's an interesting dynamic, and the game primarily relies on metagaming, which means that people not necessarily discussing the nature of the game, but looking at each other for clues and for tells, talking around the game, talking about the people themselves as if the people themselves are the game. And it's this interesting dynamic of how this metagame interacts with the game itself, but you really don't know. And people play it so differently and that it becomes almost impossible to really trust any decision. And I think that's the point. That was the purpose of the original design. It's brilliant for pulling out ethical, moral issues if you want to use it educationally. And I can see how initially, using it in Moscow and through schools in America, that's why people would want to play the game. Today, it's just hell fun. It's awesome. Like I took this game onto a school trip to Vanuatu when we went with a bunch of kids. And most of these kids were sporty kids. There was maybe 2-3 of us who were into games. They wanted to play Werewolf. I said, sure, if you can get someone else to join us. The game plays between 5 to 68. There was 24 of us on the trip, 3 teachers. They got 6 people for our first game. And I was impressed. I was really impressed that they got these non-nerdy, non-gamer people in to join us. We played our first game. After that game, those 6 people then went off and got knocked on the doors of the cabins and where all the different students were staying. And by the end of the night, we had most of the students playing the game. By the end of the week, we played it every night that first week, and then every night that second week. And as we did, we started to grow. We had regulars, we had people come and going, but for the most part, we were still averaging around 18 of the 24 students a night. And they would play it from the moment dinner finished until bedtime. And it was phenomenal. We had a great time. And they loved that interaction. It was just fun. Fun, fun, fun. One of the things that stand out for me is I try to think about the game in terms of game design and what I can take away from it is that there are more ways to look at the game than just what's on the board. That if I can use information or hide information from players, then it creates a bit more tension. It means that people are left there second guessing their decisions. And then using the way the game uses the metagame, it's this player versus player. It's not just player versus the game. Or it's not just how they're playing the game or the cards they're playing. It's, are they outsmarting? Are they out-bluffing? Are they outthinking their opponents? And that's a challenge for game design, to think beyond the board. I think it's a challenge for me. I think it's one I'm keen to take up. I would like to think, can I hide information from players and add a whole new element to the game that might get them thinking about the player across from them rather than just taking their turn and moving on. It's a good dynamic. I like that element. I like that part of the game design. Certainly what I'm going to think about. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you've enjoyed our little journey through the history of the game Mafia and ultimately Werewolf, or Ultimate Werewolf for that matter. Love to hear your comments. Please put them in the comments section below. Please tell me. I'd love to hear from you if you even like social deduction games, and if so, what do you like about them? Do you enjoy the metagame element, or do you prefer games that tend to focus just on in-game information? Have a wonderful time. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm Dave Adams. This is The Core Mechanic.
We'd love to hear from you in the comments. What, if any, social deduction games do you enjoy, and how would you classify them? Thanks for watching.